The nation was stunned on a Monday evening as news broke that would send shockwaves through every corner of America. People everywhere, at home, in restaurants, on city streets, paused, transfixed by the headlines flashing across their screens.
Tyler was always kind of quieter since we were little, but not like quiet weird.
The sense of disbelief was palpable, as if the country itself had been momentarily frozen in time. Charlie Kirk, a polarizing conservative commentator known for his fiery rhetoric and passionate following, had been assassinated at Utah Valley University. The campus, usually a place of learning and debate, was suddenly thrust into the national spotlight for all the wrong reasons. The event, intended as a forum for the free exchange of ideas, was transformed into a chaotic crime scene in a matter of seconds. Students and faculty who had gathered to listen and engage were instead witnesses to a tragedy that would haunt them for years to come. Law enforcement and emergency services swarmed the campus, their sirens echoing the chaos and disbelief that gripped the community. The flashing lights painted the university in an eerie glow as investigators worked through the night searching for answers. News anchors spoke in hushed, somber tones, struggling to process the gravity of the attack. Across every major network, journalists tried to make sense of the unthinkable, their voices tinged with shock and sorrow. For some, Kirk was a champion of free speech and conservative values. For others, a nemesis whose views sparked outrage. But in that moment, he was simply a victim, another life lost to the escalating tensions that have come to define the nation's political landscape. The assassination was a brutal reminder of the country's deep divisions. The American flag flew at half-mast, while protesters and mourners alike gathered, their faces etched with grief, anger, and confusion. It forced Americans to confront the reality that political violence was no longer a distant threat, but a present and urgent danger. The echoes of past tragedies seemed to reverberate through the empty halls and silent classrooms. The shock quickly gave way to fierce debate, online, in homes, and across the airwaves. Social media erupted with polarized opinions, as families and friends found themselves divided over what the tragedy meant for the future of the country. The public was left with a chilling question. If a public figure could be killed for their beliefs, what did that mean for free speech, for civil discourse, for the very fabric of democracy? The empty podium stood as a stark symbol of the silence left behind. The event marked a dangerous new chapter in America's polarized era, one where the boundaries of disagreement seemed to blur into violence. Headlines screamed of a nation at a crossroads, as communities braced for what might come next. As the initial shock faded, a profound unease settled in. The campus, once alive with debate and laughter, now felt haunted by the weight of what had occurred. People gathered in small groups, searching for comfort and answers. The tragedy would force a nation, and one family, to face the consequences of unchecked hatred. Grieving loved ones clung to each other, while the country grappled with the painful lessons of its own history. The story was only beginning. As dawn broke over the campus and the nation, it was clear that the aftermath of this event would shape the American conversation for years to come. The suspect's name stunned the public. Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old from a quiet Utah suburb. Friends described him as quiet, intelligent, and unremarkable, hardly the profile of a political assassin. He had no criminal record, no history of violence, and came from a respectable Republican family. Tyler was a good student, not an activist or a troublemaker. The news of his arrest sent shockwaves through his community. The contrast between the boy next door and the accused killer was deeply unsettling. It suggested that extremism can hide behind the most ordinary facades. Investigators began digging into his life, searching for the hidden path that led him here. They scoured his online activity and personal relationships, looking for the person he had become in secret. The mystery of Tyler Robinson became the investigation's central focus. How could a promising student become a killer? The Robinsons first sensed something was wrong with Tyler weeks before the assassination. Subtle changes in his mood and behavior crept in, almost unnoticed at first, but soon impossible to ignore. It happened at a Sunday dinner, a cherished tradition in their home. Usually a time for warmth, laughter, and connection. A moment when the family could come together and share stories from their week. But on this particular evening, a casual political discussion quickly escalated, shattering the usual sense of comfort. What began as a simple exchange of opinions soon turned into a heated argument. Tyler, once reserved and quiet at the table, suddenly became agitated and angry, his words sharp, his tone absolute. He interrupted, raised his voice, and dismissed his parents' attempts to calm him. He spoke of political figures, including Charlie Kirk, as enemies to be silenced. His language was harsh, his ideas extreme, and his passion bordered on obsession. His parents, Mark and Sarah, were stunned by the intensity and unfamiliar rage in their son. They exchanged glances, searching each other's faces for answers, but finding only fear and confusion. The dinner ended in tense silence. The family's comfort shattered. The clatter of cutlery and laughter was replaced by an uneasy quiet, as if a storm had passed through their home. Mark and Sarah exchanged worried glances, realizing this was more than a phase or a fleeting teenage rebellion. Something deeper was wrong. Tyler had become withdrawn, spending hours alone online, his face illuminated by the cold glow of his computer screen late into the night. He barely spoke to his family, retreating further into isolation. Attempts to reach him were met with distance and evasion. Every question was answered with a shrug or silence. Every invitation to talk was ignored. The dinner was the first crack in their normal life, a warning sign they couldn't ignore. The sense of unity they once felt was now fractured, replaced by worry and uncertainty. In the days that followed, their concern grew, but Tyler retreated further, locking himself away, his presence in the house now only a shadow. The family felt helpless, powerless to reach the boy they once knew. They watched, hearts heavy, as Tyler slipped further from their grasp, unaware that their nightmare was just beginning. They stood on the edge of a cliff, unable to see how far they might fall, the ground beneath them crumbling with every passing day. The darkness consuming Tyler was now impossible to deny. It seeped into every corner of their lives, casting a shadow over even the simplest moments. The warning had come too late. The Robinsons could only watch, filled with regret and fear, as their family unraveled before their eyes. The night of the assassination, a heavy, suffocating dread filled the Robinson home. The air was thick with anxiety, every shadow in the house seeming to whisper of something terrible just beyond their understanding. News reports flashed across the screen showing grainy surveillance footage of the suspect. In that instant, Sarah's heart stopped. She recognized Tyler's walk instantly, a detail only a mother would know. The realization was like a punch to the gut. The truth hit like a tidal wave, overwhelming, inescapable. Their son, the boy they had raised and loved, was the killer. Disbelief and horror mingled on their faces as the reality set in. Moments later, Tyler walked in, his face pale and eyes haunted. He quietly confessed to shooting Charlie Kirk, his voice barely above a whisper. The room seemed to shrink around them as the weight of his words settled in. Mark and Sarah's world shattered in an instant. The family, once whole, now sat together in a grief so deep it felt bottomless, clinging to each other as if to keep from falling apart completely. Alone in the darkness, Mark faced an agonizing choice: protect his son, as every instinct screamed, or do what was right, even if it meant losing him forever. Every fiber of his being wanted to shield Tyler from the world, to keep him safe from the consequences, but his conscience, heavy and unyielding, demanded otherwise. The struggle inside him was almost unbearable. With trembling hands, Mark picked up the phone and called 911. His voice was steady, but his heart was breaking as he told the dispatcher that his own son had confessed to the crime. He sat with Tyler, speaking softly, convincing him to surrender peacefully. Mark tried to reassure his son even as his own world was collapsing, wanting Tyler to know he was not alone. The decision was a devastating act of moral responsibility. Mark knew he had done what was right, but the cost was almost too much to bear. Mark's choice was a sacrifice, betraying his deepest paternal instinct for the greater good. He closed the door on the life they once knew, tears streaming down his face. The family's future was forever changed in that moment. The home that once echoed with laughter now felt empty, haunted by memories of happier times. Their pain was immeasurable, but their integrity remained unbroken. In the face of unimaginable loss, they clung to each other, determined to survive the storm together. Mark was not just a father in pain, he was a citizen forced to make an unthinkable choice. The weight of his decision would stay with him forever, a constant reminder of the price of doing what is right. The Robinsons' nightmare quickly became a matter of national consequence. Their quiet suburban life was shattered by the glare of the media and the judgment of strangers. Their story was now in the public eye, dissected by news anchors and splashed across headlines. The world watched as the Robinsons faced the aftermath of a father's unthinkable choice.
You know what I know about Tyler is course, he was always very quiet. He was very smart. He had just a real mellow personality, never caused any problems. He, like I said, he was smart and he kept to himself, and I don't know who his friends were as of now.
Turning in their own son was an act of profound moral courage for the Robinsons. They chose responsibility over denial, affirming that no one is above the law. Their decision prevented a dangerous manhunt and allowed justice to begin. The family's sacrifice was a powerful statement about accountability. Their story is a painful lesson. Love for family does not mean blindness to harm. The weight of their choice will haunt them, but their integrity stands as an example. In the face of unimaginable pain, they chose the harder path. Their courage is a somber reminder of the responsibilities we all share. Sometimes true responsibility means making the most painful sacrifices for justice. Investigators traced Tyler's radicalization to the darkest corners of the internet. He was drawn into online echo chambers where extreme ideologies were amplified and normalized. Algorithms fed his obsession, pushing him further to the fringes. Violence was glorified and political opponents were dehumanized. Tyler's transformation was gradual, hidden from his family. The internet gave him a sense of belonging that replaced real-world connections. His story is a chilling example of how online extremism can turn ordinary people into instruments of hate. The digital world that connected him ultimately led to his tragic disconnection from humanity. Tyler's arrest sent shockwaves through his hometown. Neighbors and teachers echoed the same refrain. "We never saw it coming." He was remembered as polite and intelligent, never aggressive. The community struggled to reconcile the boy they knew with the crime he committed. The Robinsons were left with guilt and confusion, replaying every missed warning sign. The angry outburst at dinner now seemed like a blaring alarm. The tragedy revealed a hard truth. We often don't truly know those closest to us. Tyler's calm exterior hid a turbulent inner world. The community's sense of safety was shattered. Sympathy for the Robinsons mixed with a desperate need for answers. "We never saw it coming" became a haunting admission of a collective blind spot. The weapon Tyler used, a World War I-era Mauser rifle, added chilling premeditation to the crime. The rifle, a family heirloom, was untraceable due to its lack of a serial number. Tyler deliberately chose it, texting his roommate about its anonymity. This showed careful planning and a sophisticated awareness of law enforcement methods. Investigators found Tyler's DNA on the rifle, linking him directly to the crime. The use of an untraceable weapon complicated the investigation. The case raised concerns about the dangers of unsecured vintage firearms. A relic of the past became a tool for modern violence. The family's history was forever tainted by tragedy. The weapon's legacy was rewritten in blood. The past and present collided in the most devastating way. The Robinson family's tragedy is a lesson for a nation grappling with extremism. Their courage in turning in Tyler stands as a testament to moral clarity. The story raises urgent questions about responsibility, to family, to society, and to ourselves. It challenges us to confront uncomfortable truths and intervene before it's too late. The assassination of Charlie Kirk is a grim warning about the dangers of polarization and online hate. Tyler saw Kirk not as a person, but as an enemy, a view cultivated in digital echo chambers. The tragedy compels us to build a more empathetic, resilient society. The Robinsons made their choice. Now, society must make its own. How do we prevent the next tragedy? The answer begins at home, with vigilance, compassion, and the courage to act.